Well, if you're looking for an elegant and fancy way to give a gift or even create something for yourself to store some of your personal items, you've come to the right place. Now, we've got a really pretty box here in front of me that we're going to assemble. And first time in quite some time, maybe not quite some time, but we're using some nice graphic 45 papers. This is from the Bloom collection. And let's just jump right in here. I've already kind of pre-folded a lot of my pieces just to save time. And what we're going to begin with is assembling the main container, the bottom of the box. And that is going to be made up of this piece here, and then this piece here, which is very similar, except that it has the bottom already connected to it. Now, before we begin actually piecing it together, and I've mentioned this before, I do kind of like to work flat when possible. So I'm going to take my panels here, and we're going to actually, glue them on before we do anything else. And I'm just trying to make sure that I've got the orientation on this correct, because some of these do have some text on them. So of course, be conscious of where you're placing your pieces. Now, when you take a look at this, what you want to do is you want to actually align this with the very top. Okay, so the box is like this. That is the bottom. Okay, and what we're going to do is just, again, make sure that when we glue this down, it is nice and flush with the top. You're not going to leave a border at the top. It's going right up to the very edge of this piece here. So let's begin by doing that. Okay, so here we go. My bottle kind of clogged up on me a little bit. Let's get our glue on our first panel here. And I do want to make sure that I get that glue out to the very edge so that that top part where we're going to actually be touching it a little bit here and there is nice and glued down. So you do want to try to center it left and right, but also, again, make sure that this part is nice and flush with the very top there. And I did ink this with a little bit of green ink, and I was initially going to just do the green, but I threw a little bit of purple down first and then some green, and it turned out quite lovely. Gave it a little bit of an aged look, which was a little unexpected, but definitely something that I like the end result. So let's get these pieces in place here, and then we can begin putting it together. Again, I just want to make sure that I'm getting everything centered, and then again, flush with the very top. There we go. That's good. Okay. That's good. There we go. Now, there are also these pieces here. I should have two more here. I do. These are going to get glued here, but I'm going to wait until the box is put together to do that. Okay, so I'm going to ignore that for now, and let's get these other two on here. And I just want to make sure that I've got the orientation correct. And I do, because if you put it this way, you'll notice that there's a little bit more of a gap at the bottom. You don't want that. You want to make sure that you have it aligned this way, because this is not a perfect square. It's a rectangle. Okay, so let's get that in place. And one thing I do want to mention, because I keep seeing it, even though I do talk about it a lot, is warping, and in some cases, things not gripping and setting quickly, and that's typically because I'm using too much glue. So go easy on the glue. Cover as much area as you can, but you don't need to put giant globs of glue on your pieces. A little bit will go a long way. You can see how fine my little lines are here. There's like barely any glue on here, and it's more than enough. Every little drop can hold and pull a lot of weight, and then when you kind of add them all together, it's the sum of all the parts that really make it all nice and strong. Okay, so we've got our panels on. Now what we can do is we can take, and we've got a tab here. Again, I've already pre-folded these things. We're going to connect this piece to this tab here to make it one long piece. And then ultimately we'll connect the other side as well to make it one continuous piece. Okay, so get your glue on there, and then I'm going to take that glue and run it out to the very edge there so that we have a nice clean connection there, a nice clean seam. Okay, and just pop that right into place. Just make sure the top is nice and even. Give that a press. Okay, and you can fold it over on top of itself and kind of run your finger along that edge just to make sure that everything looks nice and lined up. Mine does. So we're in good shape so far. And this should be nice and even as well, this top part. Okay. All right, so now we're gonna just take this piece and connect it over here. So let's get our glue on this tab. Whoa, hey there, glue. What are you doing? See that? That is my glue bottle being inconsistent. So I'll just take a scrap piece of paper and just kind of pull that off. And let's try that again. That's fine. There's a dry chunk in there that was restricting the flow, and then it kind of came out finally, and then it was just Niagara Falls, which is fine. Okay, so you can actually lay this down flat, grab this other piece and just connect it right there. Make sure it's all nice and lined up. Give that a press. And then you can fold it on over onto itself and press that down. And that looks good. Okay, so this box kind of has like little beveled edges or sides. So you've got the 4 sides, but then you've also got these little bevels here as well. So we are going to do our best to get that all glued down in one little shot here. And if we fail, which we probably won't, but if we do, we can always go back in and kind of clean it up. So don't worry about it. And my glue bottle is just out of control right now, pardon me. Okay, so let's start here or wherever, doesn't matter where you start. Let's get our glue down, maybe a nice little thin line right out to the edge so we can paint that glue right out to the very edge, like so. Okay. And there's going to be a little bit of, you have to do a little bit of adjusting to make sure that this thing takes on the correct shape here. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. For these little tiny little areas here, I'm just going to kind of dab that with my finger to get that glue out to the edge and kind of make it a little more tacky as well, so it's ready to grip this piece that we're going to throw on here. And I can already tell by the consistency of the glue that we may have to go back in and do a little bit of a touch-up after we get this all in place. So before you put this down, try to kind of put it into the correct position. Fold this over and try to match it up with this side first. Okay, now this is the bottom. I got a little bit of glue on that, but that's okay. Just try to match that end up. Make it as flush as you can. Okay, and then start working your way around. Like I said, you may need to kind of move things and adjust these little edges to get them to line up correctly. There we go. There we go. Now this one needs to come out a little more. There we go. That needs to go in. This one needs to come out more. There we go. And again, this one's a little tricky because of the beveled edges, but I think we did a pretty good job here, and we will go in and kind of clean this up here in just a moment. And I'll show you what I mean by that. That's pretty good. I'll press that down from the inside. And then we'll take a look at the bottom again, and if there are any areas where it looks like it's not making good contact with that bottom that we just put on, we'll do our little trick where we just kind of paint those little areas with a little bit of extra glue. Like this little area here, that didn't grab very well. So what I usually do, and our veteran dreamers know about this little method, I just take a scrap piece of paper and I'll just throw a little bit of glue right on the very edge of that. And if you need to, you can kind of pull this back a little bit, stick that little piece in there, and just paint some glue right on that little area that maybe just isn't making the best contact. And then go ahead and press that up against the piece there and hold it temporarily until it sets. And now you've got a nice clean seam and everything looks nice and, well, nice and put together without any gaps. I'm going to try to clean up this little area here too. I feel like it didn't make good contact here. And the cool thing is just if you use a piece of paper to kind of paint that in there, it's so thin and it goes in there with no issues. Gets the glue exactly where you need it. Imagine trying to squeeze that glue in there with, you know, your glue bottle. It's not going to work. So that is the solution to that. And we got another little edge there that I want to clean up. So I'll just throw that in there, like so. And just clean off any excess, press down until it makes good contact, and there you go. Okay, so that is the main structure here. Now we have this little piece here, which is our liner. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some glue and just kind of paint it, or not paint it, just apply some glue there. And put that liner right in there. It's going to give us a nice finished bottom. It's going to reinforce our piece as well. And that's that. Okay, so there is the main structure, ready to go. So our main structure is almost done. Again, we've got these, what color is this? This would be I think it's powder. I believe it's a powder color, yeah. So we're just going to take these, we're going to glue these right on here, right on the very caps or on the beveled parts here, and these again are going to be flush with the very top of the box as well. Okay, so let's just start applying our glue on this piece. Nice and easy, not too much, and then throw a little bit of extra right up at the top and just kind of spread that glue right to the very edge so that we don't get any of that peeling back. I'm kind of using my finger here so that it's like a little guide, so I could take this piece and push it right up against my finger so I know that it's aligned with the top, and then we'll just press that into place. There we go. Just make sure it's nice and centered. There we go. And we're just going to repeat that process 3 more times on the 3 other little corner pieces there. And then really all that's left to do is create the lid for it and a little base. And then we've got some small little flowers that we're going to add to this as well, just to kind of pretty it up even more. And this will be pretty much ready to go. There we go. I just get that top part nice and intact, so everything looks nice and clean and polished. And for those of you that are new to Dreaming Tree, probably within the last couple of years, I've been working, when I create these videos, it's actually my first time making it, just like you. After I get the projects from my team, this is literally my first time going at it, so if I can do it, you can do it, absolutely. I have no doubt. Okay, so that one's in place. That just leaves one more, and then we'll just put the base together and then work on the lid. It's just a matter of layering all these pieces together. There's nothing, there's no real rocket science behind any of this. We're just putting one little piece together at a time, and then after we're all done with that, just kind of put it all together to create the final project, and that looks really nice. Okay, So that's that. Now let's take a look at our base. And you'll notice that in your cutouts, let me move this out of the way for a second, there's two pieces that are identical, okay? So of these two identical pieces, just pick one. They're both the same, doesn't matter. Grab one of those, and then grab, in this case, you're gonna grab this piece, and then this piece here. This is gonna go right on top like that to, give it a nice little pattern. So we're just gonna construct this base, put this pattern on there, and then we'll start with our lid. Okay, so I already pre-folded everything. This is gonna go together pretty quick, actually. It's not really that complex of a piece. You'll notice that there's a little tiny triangular tab here. So we want to apply some glue to that. And then what we're gonna do is we're going to connect that to its neighboring piece, which is this one. So just tuck it right behind this neighboring piece and give it a good squeeze. Make sure that it's correctly lined up, that you've got it nice and pardon my cut here. I should have put a Band-Aid on that, but I'm a boy, it's okay. Okay. And throw that on there. Next little piece. So now this little triangular tab, we're going to connect that to that little tiny corner area, and just go ahead and connect that and hold that in place. Give it a squeeze. There we go. And just moving right along. We're only applying glue right now to these little triangular tabs here, these tiny ones. And then whatever piece is right next to it, adjacent to it, that is what we're connecting. So we're going to lift this up now and get this piece connected. Just stick a finger back there, use one finger to push down, your thumb to push up to apply that pressure to help that glue get into the little pores of the paper. And again, if you use just enough glue, not too much, it shouldn't take more than a few seconds for it to really bind. And kind of dabbing it like I just did will actually help make it more tacky quicker. It exposes it to more oxygen and thins it out a little bit so that it just sets a lot faster and makes for a quicker assembly. See, I initially squirted out way too much glue there, so I kind of dabbed some of it off and then just got rid of it, wiped it on my little sponge under my table. There we go, and just working my way around. Give that a squeeze. And two more. And as you probably have guessed, because we have another piece that looks exactly like this, we're going to repeat that same process with the other piece, and that is going to be for our lid. Okay, so hopefully you get the gist here on what we're doing. Now this last little tab, we're going to have to kind of work or come in from the inside here. You can move these tabs out of the way if you need to. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, you can, I mean, there's a tab here. Regardless of which side you start on, there's going to be one more little tab in there that you need to connect with its neighbor to form this little base. Okay, give that a squeeze, and there we go. Okay, so our walls for the base are all connected now. We've got pretty much a solid piece here, and now all that's left to do is close it up with this piece here. And kind of like we did with our main structure when we put the bottom on, well, with this we're going to start by anchoring it on one side, and then we're going to connect the rest of the sides all in one shot here, one fell swoop. So get your glue onto one of these sides here, it doesn't matter which side. This is a symmetrical piece. And just kind of thinning that glue out because I did get a little too much on there. And that's the consistency usually that it will begin to warp if you have too much on there. All right, so you can see the corners here and the corners here. Just kind of line that up as accurately as you can. And just press that down, make sure it gets a good hold. Now the cool part about this is that this side was already kind of assembled for us. So I'm literally just putting on the bottom. If this doesn't turn out perfect, it's not going to be the end of the world, because you can always just put it down on the bottom. No one's going to see it. It's going to be sitting, it's going to be underneath everything. So, but that looks nice. That came out nice. So now that we've got that piece in place, these walls being a lot shorter, kind of keeps everything, everything's going to stay intact more so than this one, because this one didn't have a bottom already in place. So we're not going to have to move this thing around too much to get it to fit properly when we put the top on here. So this should be a lot easier than the construction of the main compartment of our box. And I think if you do these with Valentine's papers or even Christmas papers, these would be really cool gifts for either of those occasions. Okay, so I'm just getting glue on the rest of the tabs now, kind of thinning out the glue anywhere I think is necessary, and also getting that glue out to the very edges so that we make nice contact there with the paper when it comes down. Okay, and now we're ready to flip this down. Work on and focus on aligning this side first, and then the rest of it should kind of just fall in place. And then just work your fingers around the perimeter. If you need to nudge the wall in a little bit here or there to make it more even, then go ahead and do so. There we go. And just keep running your fingers along the edges here, along the perimeter, to kind of give it a consistent downforce so that we don't have any areas pulling up and away. And that turned out nicely. Again, as I mentioned, now that we've got that on, we'll just flip it over. These seams are already perfect. So that's going to be the top of our base. And what we can do now is glue our little panel on here to give it some nice color. So I'm going to do that. And try to work your glue out to the edges here. I'm kind of doing a circular motion here and trying to get my nozzle to hit the very end here and there. Don't need to get every single inch of it, but if you can get it in a few places, that would be great. There we go. And then when we place this down, we want to make sure that we get it nice and centered so that there's a nice even border going all the way around. Whoops. And there we go. Now, if you have any little areas that maybe are pulling back, we can always just take our little scrap piece of paper, tuck it under there with some extra glue, and just paint a little extra glue on there. But I think I did a pretty good job, and that's all I can ask for, actually. That came out very nice. Okay, so at this point, what we can do, we can actually glue this onto our base if we'd like. There's nothing else going on here right now. Well, you know, one thing that we are going to do, and this is optional for you, but we have this this Rhinestone Banding. We're going to add this to the project, and then later on I'll show you how these go together, but we're going to finish off the bottoms with these little flowers as well. So in my case, I think I can still get away with putting these on even after I get this glued on. So for the sake of the tutorial, let's just go ahead and glue this on and just get it in place, and that way it will be ready for us when we get the lid on there. So go ahead and get your glue on the bottom of this. You can be pretty generous with the glue on this, but most importantly, I would work a little bit of a line of glue out to the edges. Okay, and I'm going to spread that out. I've got a little bit too much there. to get that out to the very ends, very edge of this piece, because I want to make good contact here when I put this down onto the base. Just like that. Okay. And do your best to make sure that everything is nice and centered when we go ahead and apply this to the base. Kind of maybe look at it from this angle. Make sure it's nice and centered, that you've got a nice even border. And once you're sure you have it where you want it, give it a bit of a downward force and give that a second to set. And getting that glue out to the very edge is going to make sure that we don't have any little gaps showing up anywhere. Okay, but that turned out nice. Okay, so there we have that. That's looking good. Now, if you want, what you can do, if you can find some heavy items like this, I'm just going to pop this in here, and maybe a couple glue bottles, whatever, anything, just to kind of give it a downward force to help continue to push down on that glue so that it really makes good contact, especially around the perimeter. So there's half the box pretty much. I'm gonna put that off to the side and let that kind of simmer while we begin working on the lid. Okay, let's do something a little bit easier real quick. So the lid is kind of two-tiered. There's this one here, which was the same thing as the base, and then there's another tier that goes on top of that, and then actually it's three-tiered, but you'll see what I mean here. But anyway, okay, so this is the second tier of our lid, and as we did with the base, you'll notice that there are little tabs here that we're going to apply our glue to and then connect to the neighboring piece there. That was way too much glue. I'm going to pull some of that off and just kind of dab it. Then just grab that neighboring piece, connect it, and just kind of hold that firmly for a few seconds until it has good contact. And then just move right on to the next little triangular tab there. And go easy on the glue here. Don't need a lot. Just a tiny little bit. You overdo it, you're going to be waiting forever for it to dry, and then you're risking warping the piece, so you don't want to do that. So give that a squeeze. And there we go. Go. It's a really small little piece, so I feel like I'm performing surgery in a way. There we go. And you see that it's such a small little area that requires so little glue that the time it takes for it to really set is not that extreme. It's literally a few seconds, and then obviously becomes permanent after a couple minutes. Okay, and all the while make sure that you're lining the straight edges up correctly. Okay, moving right along here. This one's going to go together quick, and then our base, or the first tier, I'm going to fold this back so that I can get my fingers in here better, and just making sure that I'm aligning that correctly. Now, because there is some weight on this piece, you want to kind of give it a few extra seconds to make sure that it holds before you move on, and then try not to push it away too much, because you will risk tearing it and separating those pieces that we just glued together. There we go. And take a look over there, make sure that you've got it lined up nicely, and just hold that in place. That looks good. And that just leaves one more little triangle here. You're going to have to get your glue bottle in there and just connect that last piece. and squeeze. There we go. And that's it. Okay, so I'll give that a few extra seconds before we pull it down, but I guess in the meantime, we can start applying our glue to these tabs here. So go ahead and do that. And as always, make sure you get a little bit of that glue out to the very edges. I went a little bit heavy there, but that's okay. We'll clean it up. Well there, that was way too much. And again, the cool thing about this is once we put this bottom on, we can flip it over and use the other side that's already connected as our top. So this part, you're not really gonna see anyway, but do your best to make it as nice as you can. And this side's already starting to dry a little bit, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just reapply just a quick little line, get that out to the very edges there. Perfect. Okay, flip these up just a tiny bit and go ahead and put the lid on. Align it with the side opposite of the side that's already anchored. Focus on that side first and then work your way around the rest of the sides here. Again, you may need to take and kind of push that wall in a little bit to make sure that everything aligns nicely, and then continue to press down around the perimeter as it's setting. Give that a second. Take a look at your work. Those seams should be nice and clean, and mine are. I'm going to continue to kind of push down a little bit. I'm not sold on the fact that it's all dry yet, so I don't want to jump the gun here. Okay, that's pretty good. All right, so again, flipping it over, this is going to be our top now, the side that already was connected. And all we need to do is apply our little panel here, just like that. So let's get our glue on that. And work some of that glue out to the edges if you can, as close as you can. There we go. And make sure you get that centered. There should be an even border going all the way around, just like that. Give it a nudge in case you didn't get it nice and centered. Okay, that looks pretty good. Run your finger along the perimeter. Make sure you're making good contact all the way around. If you have any little areas that are popping up, grab your little scrap, paint some glue underneath there. I've got one little area that I'm not happy with, so I'm just going to throw a little bit of glue on there. This part's coming up, so I'm just going to put it right under there, paint a little bit of glue to the underside of this panel, and then just press that down. Make sure it's making nice flush contact with our little purple piece there. Okay, so there's our second tier. I've got another little area there that is not really sitting flat, so I'm just going to paint that right under there, just like that. And I'll press that down. There we go. Okay, so that is the second tier. Nice and done. Looks like we did a pretty good job. So we'll move on to the main tier here, and this is basically just a rewind back to the original base that we made. Okay, so if you're comfortable, you can kind of skip ahead here, or pause me and skip ahead and put on your show or whatever it is you're listening to or watching in the background, and then meet me at the next step. But I'm going to go ahead and do this one again anyway. So again, we've got our little triangular tabs here, and just a simple little bit of glue on the tab. There it goes. And connect it right to its neighbor. Move that out of the way. Make sure that you've got it nice and aligned, and then just press firmly to get those two pieces to connect and move right along. There we go. So yeah, what else? If you have any ideas on how to use this, you can definitely leave a comment under this video on YouTube. I'd love to hear your ideas. Typically we'll ask you guys what you think or how you use this stuff when we do our little Facebook giveaway. So I'm excited to see what ideas are floating through your heads as far as how you're going to use these or who you're going to gift them to. Moving right along, next little triangular tab. There we go. Just a tiny little bit of glue, that's all it takes. Give that a squeeze. And, you know, as you squeeze too, you're kind of pushing that glue in every which way direction there, and that's also helping spread that glue out thinner, helping it dry faster, and then of course covering more surface area to ensure that it's holding it and keeping it all together. Okay, so again, we're just working on the little triangular tabs here. Nothing crazy. There we go. And connect. A couple more. And we'll be ready to put the top, or in this case, probably the bottom's a little bit different, and we'll show you how that works here in just a moment. The bottom has a little lip that we're going to connect another piece to, so that when we put the lid on, it will actually, it won't just slide off. It'll have a little lip to kind of hold it in place. Okay, so last little triangular tab in there, connect it to its neighbor, line it up, give it a squeeze, and just hold briefly. There we go. There we go. Now this one's going to be a little bit easier actually. So what we're going to do, I've got this piece here. Now when it comes out of your machine, this is my texture side. You're going to fold these up, okay? And we're going to glue this on like so, just like that, okay? And yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. And then we're going to take this piece. I'll show you what to do with that in just a moment. But let's get one side anchored first. So grab your glue, put it on just one tab, and let's get that glue out to the edges here. And we got a little bit too much there. Just gonna spread that nice and thin. Okay. And it doesn't matter which side. This is all symmetrical. Just go ahead and make sure you get that lined up nicely. Okay. And press that down. And then once it's connected, you can put that down on your table and push from the inside. Let me flatten that out. There we go. Okay, so that is nice and connected there. Now, let me move this out of the way. Get our glue on the rest of the sides here. Oops. And we'll close this up. Now with this one, now we can get our fingers under there and press from the underside as well. And that's going to ensure that we make even better contact with everything. Okay, so I'm spreading that glue out to the edges here. That one's got way too much glue. I'll just kind of dab some of that off and use it on this piece, on this tab. There you go. Perfect. All right, you can flare these up a tiny bit. Pull this down. Focus on lining up this side first. Get that nice and centered. The rest should kind of just fall into place. If you need to, just kind of nudge that wall in a little bit, just to make sure that it's nice and flush with this piece that we're putting on right now. And if it all doesn't stick the first time, we can always go clean it up. And I think, well, maybe not. It is kind of a little thin. Yeah, I can still get my finger in there a little bit just to help push down more. I don't think it's actually necessary though. Give that a few seconds and then we're going to check our work. I got a feeling that this side maybe it just didn't take as well as this other side. I may have some, well, you know, yeah, just this little corner here didn't really take as well as I had hoped. So I'm just gonna paint a little bit of glue right under this area here. Just like that. And just press that down right in that little area. Make sure that it's nice and flush with the other piece. And there we go. There's our lid. It's looking pretty sharp. Okay. All right, so we can flare these up. Now let's move over to this piece real quick. These two little strips here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna join these together. There's a little tab there. We can throw our glue right on that tab. Just like that. I'm gonna just dab that and grab the other end and just connect it right up to that line. Give that a press. And you can lift it up and fold it onto itself. It should match up all the way down. You don't want it off like this. You want it to be right on top of itself. That's how you know you've got it perfectly aligned. And then you can take this other tab, throw a little bit of glue on there, and connect the other end. You can actually do this flat, and it should match up perfectly. And it does. So we end up with this. Okay. Just like that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece and just slide it right over this piece. Okay, just like that. And that is going to create that nice little square lip so that when we put it on top of our box, it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, now with this, a couple of ways of doing this, I think. I'm going to try something new. You can easily, if you want, just take one of these tabs, fold it down. Well, you know what? Let's do this. Let's do it this way. Let's just do it nicely. Let's just get our glue. I'm going to focus on getting the glue right up to the very edge of this piece here because I don't want any glue squirting inward. So we'll just focus on the very edge of the tab, the shorter edge there. You can see where all my glue's going. And I think that this will work. This should be a little bit faster too. And I'm just going to push that out to the very edge there, all the way down this piece. Like that. And then we'll take this piece. Doesn't matter which way, it's the same thing. Just pop it right on top there, and then take one side, take one tab on one side, and just push it up and make a nice connection with the other one, or with this piece. And then just go all the way around. Just make sure that this piece is nice and flush with the actual bottom of the lid there. There we go. That's pretty much it. Just like that. Okay, let's grab our box and test this out. See how it looks and see how it feels. There we go. That's nice. And it's pretty darn even too. Yep, looks good. Okay. All right, so there's our first part of our lid. Now remember, this is like a 3-tier lid, so we're gonna take this purple piece here. Before we do that though, got a panel that we need to put on here. Almost forgot. Good thing I didn't. So let's get our panel on here. And try to get some of that glue out to the edge there. Just like that. Get that nice and centered. There we go. Now you kind of can do this. You can push from the inside so that you don't crush the lid, especially in these areas here. Then I'm going to flip this over and run my finger along the perimeter, make sure that that's making good contact. Checking my work to see if there's any little areas that are kind of coming up that might need a little extra love. And I'm just going to paint a little glue under there so that everything is nice and flush. That looks good, that looks good. And, well, you know, I think that all looks, oh, there's one. There's a little area there. I'll just lift that back a tiny bit, get some glue in there. And just press and hold that down. There we go. Okay, so now, okay, looks like I've got some writing on mine, so I want to make sure that when I put this down that it's nice and centered, and that looks good. So we can take our glue and let's get it on this box. And I'm going to try to get some glue out to the edges as well. There's way too much there. I'll get rid of that. And just spread that out to the edges. Beautiful. Okay, and I'm just going to pop that right in the center of this. Make sure you get it nice and as centered as you can. I mean, it could be off a little bit, and no one's really going to be able to tell. But I think that is about where it needs to be. That's perfect, I'd say. Okay, and well, that's a little off. There we go. Much better. Perfect. Okay. And you can push down whichever way you can. Just apply a little extra pressure. And having that glue around the perimeter really helps it, you know, bond more accurately. But that looks nice. Okay, so we've got that. The box is really coming together now. You can see how beautiful that looks. So we just have one more little tiny tier, and then a little finial handle sort of contraption and some flowers, and we're pretty much done. So let's take a look at the final little tier, and that is this guy here. And that guy has a little, in this case, it's a vanilla AC cardstock that I inked with a little bit of purple. So just like we did with every other tier to this lid, as well as the base, we're going to be taking these little tiny triangular tabs and gluing them to our neighbors to form this little piece here. So in this case, we're going even smaller, so that's going to require even less glue. Just throw a little bit of glue on that triangular tab and grab that neighboring wall piece and just squeeze those two together until it sets. And again, this is going to go pretty quick because we're dealing with very little surface area here and very little glue. So we should be able to whip this thing together in no time. There we go. Just give that a squeeze. Try to line it up as accurately as you can. And we've got another little bonus feature here. Once we put this bottom on, remember this top is already put together with nice straight connections. So even if the bottom doesn't sit perfectly, it's still going to look great because it's already partially connected. We're just forming the walls and making it dimensional. Okay, moving right along. Next tab, tiny little bit of glue. Don't go crazy with it. Okay, there we go. And connect that. There we go. Two more. You can see how much faster this goes when it's smaller. I might need a little more glue than that. Just give it a little dab. And connect. Just make sure that the two edges are lining up nicely, and that just leaves one more little triangular tab in there. Do your best to get your glue in there. If you want, you can even paint the glue. Actually, I got way too much in there, so I'm going to use my scrap piece of paper to kind of dab that glue, which I would usually do with my finger, but I don't want to jam my finger in there. I'd probably end up destroying this tiny little piece. We don't want that. And that's it, okay? So now, I can move that out of the way, and we'll just do little lines of glue here, mostly towards the edge. We're going to paint those edges with our finger or with whatever tool you want, just to get that glue out to the edge. Make it look nice. Whoops. Hey there, buddy. Don't go there. Don't go anywhere. All right. All right, so we can flip these out just a tiny bit so that as we bring this down, it grabs more of that surface area. Focus on the side opposite of the side that is already anchored and make sure that you get that nice and aligned. And then you can kind of nudge in, push in the little walls there to get the rest of it aligned. And Just kind of run your fingers. I'm applying pressure with these two fingers by squeezing a little bit right at the very edges there. And there we go. Okay, so now this is going to be our top because that part was already put together. We're going to take this piece here and glue that right down like that. It's our little panel. It's going to hold our little finial handle, which I would probably suggest hot gluing, since you're actually going to be using, well, some people may use it to actually lift off the lid, and I would want that to, well, just be a little bit stronger than maybe this glue would do. Well, actually, you know what? I don't know. I don't even know if that's the case. This glue's pretty tough. So either way, I think that maybe the hot glue would be the better way to go, but if you use regular glue to glue that on, it's not a big deal. You'll see what I'm talking about at the end here. There's a little handle that goes on top of this. Okay, so this piece is ready to go, and all we need to do now is glue that to the box here, or the lid, I should say. So let's get our glue on this piece here, start in the center, and then again, I'm going to work some glue out to the edges. And I'm going to make sure that it gets all the way out to the edge so that it looks nice and seamless. I don't want it to look like there's three boxes on top of each other. And if we do this, we can ensure that that doesn't happen. So you want to make sure that, well, kind of this is, let's say this is the top, this is the bottom. It doesn't matter if this is the top, this is the bottom. Just pick a top and a bottom, and then take the two. You don't want it at an angle like that. You want it to be straight here, so that it coincides with the sides there of the main lid. Hope I'm explaining that right. Anyway, just make sure it looks like that. Okay, and then give that a nice little press. Do your best to make sure it's centered. It looks pretty centered to me, even if it's off a tiny bit. No one's going to be able to tell. That looks good. Okay, so there's our three-tiered little lid. And that's nice, and you know, you can technically use that as a grip if you want. If you want to omit the finial and just have a little jar or box like that. But that looks really pretty so far. You know, let's take a breather here for a second and show you the flowers, which will only take a moment. I've already pre-constructed a few of them. They're very simple. If you've done our flowers in the past, this is going to be a walk in the park, but I've already done 6 of these. There's a total of 8. There's going to be 4. I'm going to put 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4 there. And then there's going to be 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 here. And that's going to pretty it up a little bit. So all you need for each flower is 2 of the main pieces here. And then we've got the little stamens. We did the main pieces in a vanilla color. And then I inked it with a purple. And all I did was I took my dowel here and I just curled these petals against the dowel to kind of give them a round sort of look. And then once I did that, I went ahead and I just kind of curled it in my fingers to bring those petals up so that they sit up like that. Okay, so I'll do that one more time. Just take and curl that up against the dowel. I would use a thin dowel. I think it's a 1/4 inch dowel, I want to say. No, I think it's smaller than that. Something smaller than a 1/4 inch dowel will be fine, or whatever tool you have that is about this size. Okay, so once I curl it on my dowel, I'm just going to take it and kind of do that in my fingers to lift them up. And then we've got the little gold stamens, and I'm just going to take these and do the same thing, just kind of pinch them up. Just twirl them in my fingers while pushing up against each of the little stamens and kind of squeezing them together to bring them up. Okay, pretty simple. I'll do that one more time. Just kind of starting flat, putting it in my fingers like this. You can kind of push down a little bit to get it going in the right direction. And then as you kind of twirl it in your fingers, those little stamen are going to come up however you want to do it. I mean, you could technically just kind of push them in, whatever you want to do. As long as they're alive and not flat, that's what we're looking for. Okay, so we've got our stamens, we've got our actual flowers, and all you need to do is just pop a single little drop of glue in the center of your flower. We'll do them both. One little drop of glue will do. and then take and just drop your little stamen in there. Oops. Get it nice and centered, and you can use your dowel to push that down to get it to hold. There we go. And we'll drop the other one in there. And just center it, push down with your dowel, and there's your pretty little flowers. Again, with this, you know, we can put these in place here if you want. You can either pop dot these or just glue them. I'm gonna go like that. We want them kind of coming off like that. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, just put them in the corners. I kind of want them sticking outward. So I think a foam square or a Zot or hot glue, I think actually would probably be the way to go. So you know what, let me fire up my hot glue because we're gonna need it later on. Okay, so again, for our handle, it's gonna come out of your machine like this. And just as we've done now with everything else, there are a series of little triangular tabs, and we're just gonna place glue on the little triangular tabs and glue them to the walls of the neighboring piece. Okay, so this is even more so like surgery here because it's a really small little area, but I just put some glue on that first little triangular tab, and I'm bringing over the neighboring piece and just connecting it with the wall structure of that piece, and then moving right along to the next little triangular tab there. One little dot will do, and just get that connected. Just like that. And this little tab, a little bit smaller, but that's plenty of surface area to get the job done because it's a really small little piece. There we go. And if it helps, move this piece out of the way, the next piece out of the way. Let me zoom in on this actually. Okay, so you can see the little triangular tab there, just a tiny little dot of glue, and then take this piece and fold it over and just connect that together. Get your thumb back there and just squeeze it together and hold it briefly. There we go. And just moving right along to the next triangular tab. And there we go. Oops. And my finger's a little sticky. And I kind of pulled it off. It's okay though. Just got to be careful. There we go. Moving right along. Got another tiny little tab here. And just connect that. This little tiny guy. I guess I tend to get quieter as the pieces get smaller, so pardon the silence. There we go. Okay, next one. And then there's just one more. There we go. It's a tiny little piece, but you can do it. And then I gotta get that last little triangle back in here. Come here, buddy. There we go. That part came off. So I gotta re-glue that little piece there. As I was trying to bring in that last tab, I kind of stretched it out too much and it fell apart, but that's okay. We'll fix that right up. Okay, so there's that, and then there's one little piece in here, and I don't think I'm gonna try to get my glue bottle in there, so I'm gonna throw a little bit of glue on a scrap piece of paper, and I'm just gonna paint that tab with a little bit of glue instead of trying to shove my glue nozzle in there. And I'll just get that last piece connected, and just squeeze. There we go. There we go. Okay. Yeah, it's a small little piece, but you can do it. All right, now we're going to close this up. Just throw a few dots of glue. I don't think you can actually squeeze out lines. This is such a small little piece here. And then I'm going to take my finger and just kind of dab it out to the very edge. This one needs a little bit more. That was probably a little too much. Just get that glue out to the very edges there. There we go. Okay, and then we'll close it up. Just take this piece and close it right up, and then just kind of take a look at the overall shape there and just make sure that the walls, if you need to, just kind of nudge them in a little bit so that they're nice and lined up with the piece that we just laid down. Okay, and do your best to get that as lined up as you can. There we go. So there's our little handle, and we've got two, in our case, we're doing gold. So I'm going to glue this one on here, the other one on the other side, and then we've got an overlay in a purple that we're going to put on top of that to give it a nice little design. So get your glue on this piece and just line that up as accurately as you can with this piece here. Okay, just press that down. That's good. We'll flip it over. Same thing on the other side with our little gold piece. Now, if this piece is too small for you to work on, again, you can always omit it because you've got basically a handle there. Or also, what you could do is find something like a round something to put on there and just hot glue it right on there, and use that as your handle as well. So again, if this little piece proves to be too difficult, you know, if you have like arthritis or something and this is too small, then there's always another way around it. So you can definitely do that. Okay, so there's our little handle. Now we're going to take this piece and glue it right on top like that, so we can create that nice little pattern, that nice little design. So let's get our glue. Let's start here in the center. And I'm just going to use little dots here in the center. Well, no, I'm not. Just kind of go with what I feel and work that glue out to the edges. I'm going to go ahead and kind of dab this with my finger to flatten out and thin out the glue a little bit so that I don't get any of it shooting out onto the, in this case, we are using a gold foil. Because sometimes if you get glue shooting out on gold foil, it's almost impossible to clean up without creating a huge mess. So line that up as accurately as you can and just pop it right into place. There we go. That's nice. Okay, and then we have a white little piece that's going to go right in there. Just like that. We're going to line that up with the very top there, that round top of that right there. You'll see here in just a second. Oops. Just like that. Okay, so you see what that's supposed to look like. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side, and that will finish that off. And like I said, we just need to hot glue that onto the top, and then we'll get our little flowers in place and kind of wrap this up. This one's pretty much all done. Okay, and just kind of dabbing that glue, thinning it out. Oh boy, got a little bit too much in there and it's coming off on the side. So you can take a little piece of paper, maybe that same piece that you used to paint with, and just kind of get rid of any excess glue that might be kind of showing through. It'll dry clear, but I kind of don't like the glossy little sheen that it creates sometimes. So the less you spill, the better. There we go. Okay, and that just leaves one more little vanilla piece to put right in the center, and then we'll hot glue this thing in place. We'll call it a day. There we go. Okay. And how you doing, hot glue? Are you ready to go? Let's see if this hot glue's ready to go here. It is. Okay, so grab our lid, and I'm just going to throw a little bit of hot glue on the bottom of this. That should do. It's probably a little bit too much. I'm going to try to pull some of this off. And there's that silly hot glue again, misbehaving. All right, and get that nice and centered, right on top there. And I do think that's going to hold a little bit better with the hot glue. There we go. Okay, so there is our little lid. Let me zoom out here. Yep, so you can see how nicely that all works. And there is our final box. I think it looks great. And again, take a look at the final photo on the website. You'll notice that we've got this rhinestone banding that I'm going to adhere to the edges here, the sides, these little beveled areas. And then as far as the flowers go, we're gonna put 4 up on top, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 4 down here, right along where the beveled little sides are, the corners. And that's pretty much it. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, there you go. And that's it, guys. So, yeah, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the process. What a beautiful little box. I'm sure your recipient is going to love it, or you'll enjoy it, obviously, if you use it for yourself. So if you enjoyed this video, please take a moment and hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. That lets me know that you enjoy crafting with me. And if you make this or any of the new items from our new bundle, we'd love to see them. So join us in the official group on Facebook by heading over to your Facebook and doing a search for Dreaming Tree Group up in your search box. And you can join myself and the now 14,000 plus dreamers that inspire us daily. So thank you for hanging out with me, and I look forward to crafting with you again.
Stay on top of all things Dreaming Tree and engage with us today. Get the latest news and enter in our giveaways on Facebook. Get inspired by following us on Pinterest. Be the first to see our new product launches on Instagram. Do you prefer Twitter? Yep, we're there too. Watch our beautiful product trailers and assembly tutorials on YouTube. For more information, visit www.3dsvg.com. Live, craft, love, and dream.